So you've set up your race, right, as for a random all. You're in the random vehicles, you've enabled everything, you disable the things that you should disable so you don't have duplicates, like in the off-road class you get rid of the Manchester Scout and the Patriot because they're also in different classes, and you also get rid of boat, jets, helicopters, planes because you don't need them, and HSW vehicles because again that's causing duplicates, and the tuner class, and then you just enable the Sentinel XS because that's the only way to get the Sentinel XS. So you're done, right? You've set it all up for a random all. It's as it should be. You save it, and you think everything is good. But if you exit and then re-enter, and this was a bug that we found sort of very early on, you'll notice that the HSW tiers 1 and 2 and boats, for some inexplicable reason, have re-enabled themselves. There you go, HSW tier 1 and 2, and boats have just magically enabled themselves. And initially we were kind of thinking that that wouldn't have an effect on the race, like that's just when you load it back up, but it does actually have an effect on everything. Like they will be selectable if you deselect them. So that means basically that it's impossible to have a proper random all without duplicates because HSW tier 1 and tier 2, and it's just actually these two in tier 1 and then everything in tier 2, they will automatically be selected when you update the job. Boats is a little weird, only some get selected, but you also notice that if we go to sedans, okay, not this time, but basically the bug is that some boats, and I think it's 3 of the top 4, are linked to some sedans. So you can't have the sedans available without also enabling the boats, and it's these bottom 3 sedans as well. So if you sort of disable those, the boats will end up. It's annoying, right? And the HSW tiers are connected to a load of the muscle cars. Are they going to be? So these are all selected now, right? But paradoxically, it works the opposite way. If I now update it, save it again without having touched anything, so I've still got HSW tier 1 and tier 2 selected, and then I back out and go back in, and this has happened to a number of tracks, so it's worth checking your creations if so, because you can see it on GTA Lens that certain vehicles are excluded, certain vehicles have duplicates. There's no way to get around having the duplicates for the HSW vehicles because you can't, they're connected. But if I now go into random vehicles and I go to muscle, the bottom 4 are all empty. And then if I scroll up, a lot of these are all empty too. Look at how many. There's so many muscle cars that get deselected. And that happens if you leave HSW tier 2 and tier 1 selected after it's reselected itself. So the only way to make sure that those muscle cars stay selected is every time you update the job, you've got to unselect HSW tier 1 and tier 2. You can actually unselect the Sentinel XS in here as well because it's always going to be enabled in tier 1. So you've got to make sure to unselect HSW tier 1 and tier 2 when you make sure that all the muscle cars are selected every single time. And then the sedans, are they still okay? So the sedans are fine. The way that you make sure the sedans are okay is basically just keep boats enabled. It works the opposite way for the boats and sedans for some reason. You literally just have to make sure boats are consistently enabled, and then all the sedans will be enabled. If you deselect boats, like I'm going to try now, I don't think it's every single time, but sometimes the sedans will deselect themselves, the bottom 3. And I have detailed this on broughy.com/random tracks underneath the instructions to set up random races properly. But ultimately what it means is you can't really set up a random race properly. You can't do a muscle cars only random race either, because the HSW cars, tier 1 and tier 2, will automatically be enabled too, because they're linked to the muscle class. Let me check sedans. Now they're still there. So boats and sedans, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the easiest way is to boats has enabled itself again. The easiest way is just to make sure boats is enabled all the time. And every time you update the track, make sure, just have a little check, make sure that muscle is all present and correct. And every time disable HSW tier 1 and tier 2 when you update it. Because that will, by doing that, you're making sure that the muscle class is enabled when you update the track. HSW tier 1 and tier 2 will enable themselves, so there will be a double the chance of getting the Turismo Classic, the Sterling GT, whatever. But at least it means that the muscle cars are all there. Because if you don't do that, about 30 odd muscle cars just disappear from the random list. It's a mess. I don't know how, but yeah, that's the latest bug that you need to be aware of if you're making these races, at least. It's fantastic. Trying to make a cleanup to not have duplicate classes, but broke it somehow. Maybe, yeah, like they've done something in order to not have duplicates, but it's broken somehow. But I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, ideally, the way that it would work is that you could just enable everything, and it would only take one car from every class. It shouldn't be the case that if you have HSW vehicles enabled, you've got triple the chance of getting a Brioso because it's in the HSW All class, it's in the HSW Tier 1 class, and it's in compacts. Like, that shouldn't be the case, but that is the way that it works. It's just that trying to get rid of the duplicates also introduces another bug. So yeah, that's just lovely, isn't it?